5 years of mindfulness retreats, therapy sessions, self-help books, and I still felt like a fraud. A hollow shell, really. Like I was wearing a meticulously crafted mask of self-awareness, a performance designed to convince everyone and myself that I was okay. But the truth was a gaping wound, festering in the darkness. Jung called it the shadow. He understood this insidious disconnect between intellectual understanding and actual emotional wholeness. He saw how our earliest experiences of rejection, the cold shoulder from a father, the taunts of childhood peers, the sting of romantic failure, shape us into men who build elaborate fortresses of self-improvement around a core of deep, unacknowledged shame. This video isn't about more self-awareness. It's about something far more brutal, far more necessary: self-acceptance. And it starts with facing the monster in the mirror. So the self-help gurus were right about one thing: the mind is a battlefield. But they missed the crucial detail: it's not just your mind, it's their mind too. Years of meditation, of dissecting my emotions, of meticulously curating my life, it was all a performance, a frantic attempt to outrun the truth. This gnawing emptiness, this feeling of being perpetually alone despite the outward success, it wasn't a lack of self-awareness. It was a surplus of it, a carefully constructed wall built to keep something out, something dark, something shameful, something I wasn't willing to confront. Think of it like this: a beautifully crafted ship, outwardly pristine and sleek but rotting from the inside. The veneer of mindfulness, the polished facade of self-improvement, these were the ship's planks, meticulously maintained. But the hull, the very core of the vessel, that was riddled with holes, the water seeping in steadily, threatening to swallow the whole damn thing. Mark, a 72-year-old retired lawyer from San Francisco, told me something similar once. Decades spent climbing the corporate ladder, accolades aplenty, a family seemingly picture-perfect. Yet underlying it all was an unshakable sense of failure, a void he couldn't seem to fill. He thought self-help would be the answer. It wasn't. Because self-help, in his case and so many others, became another tool for avoidance, another layer of varnish applied to a decaying hull. It was another mask. He didn't need more self-awareness, he needed a reckoning, a confrontation with the very source of his pain. It wasn't about the specifics of his story, the details of his failures. It was the pattern, the archetype of the successful man who remains profoundly unfulfilled. The paradox of progress, achieving everything outwardly and still feeling utterly empty within. That hollow echo was the shadow's laughter, the bitter irony of a life well lived, or so it seemed. That meticulously crafted ship, it's a metaphor for the self, isn't it? Built on a foundation of self-help, of striving, of a relentless pursuit of better. But beneath the surface, the rot, the unseen decay, that's where Jung's shadow lurks. He understood something profoundly unsettling. The self isn't just what we consciously cultivate, it's the amalgamation of all our experiences, the good, the bad, the utterly unacceptable. And those experiences, especially the ones from childhood, shape us in ways we rarely understand until it's too late. He achieved everything, he set his mind to: a beautiful home, a thriving business. But the emptiness persisted. He was a monument to success, a hollow statue built of self-improvement. His shadow, a constant sense of being fundamentally flawed, unworthy, undeserving of love, a feeling rooted in the early emotional abandonment, the unspoken rejection that reverberated through his life. He knew intellectually that his father's shortcomings were his father's, not his. But the shadow whispered a different story, one of unworthiness, a narrative woven from the fabric of those early, painful rejections. Jung called it the complex of the rejected son. It's more than just feeling neglected. It's a deep-seated wound that affects everything: your relationships, your self-esteem, your ability to truly connect with another human being. It festers in the unconscious, twisting our perceptions, coloring our interactions, sabotaging our closest relationships, driving us towards partners who unconsciously recreate the patterns of our past. We find ourselves in cycles of rejection, unconsciously drawn to those who mirror the original wound. We chase the very thing that caused us pain, hoping to finally redeem ourselves, to conquer that original hurt. The irony, of course, is that it only serves to perpetuate it. It wasn't the lack of self-awareness that kept him trapped. It was the kind of self-awareness. It was a defensive mechanism, a self-constructed fortress built to keep the shadow at bay. The problem wasn't the absence of truth, it was the refusal to confront the truth, to accept the darkness. This isn't about wallowing in self-pity, it's about acknowledging the wounds that shape us. And that requires us to step beyond the carefully constructed facade of self-improvement, to look deep into the heart of our own darkness, to confront the very thing that we've spent a lifetime trying to outrun. That rotting hull, it's the hidden truth of the self-improvement industry. We're told to build ourselves up, to become better versions of ourselves, but what if the better version is just another mask? A meticulously crafted persona designed to hide the very things we fear most, the rejected parts, the flawed parts, the parts we've been conditioned to believe are unacceptable. This isn't about self-deception, it's about a far more subtle, far more insidious form of self-preservation. Think of Arthur, a 68-year-old retired architect from Portland. He'd conquered the mountain of professional success, achieving a level of recognition most only dream of. His social media profile was a carefully curated tapestry of success, award-winning designs, travels to exotic locales, a picture-perfect family. The comments were filled with admiration, a chorus of approval that reinforced his carefully constructed image. Yet behind the gleaming facade, a profound loneliness gnawed at him. He felt like an imposter, a fraud who'd spent his life building a monument to someone he was. He couldn't tell anyone, of course. Telling anyone would shatter the illusion, and that illusion was all he had left. Jung called this the persona, the mask we wear to the world. And the shadow, it's the rejected parts of ourselves that are hidden beneath that mask. It's the unacknowledged trauma, the buried insecurities, the unspoken shame, the things we refuse to confront. And honestly, I know from experience, facing that is brutal. Arthur's meticulously curated social media wasn't just a self-representation, it was a shield, a fortification against the pain of rejection he had known since his childhood, a pain that still resonated despite his outward accomplishments. This is where the real work begins, the work that lies beyond mindfulness apps and self-help gurus. It's about confronting the shadow, embracing the rejected parts of ourselves, not to wallow in them, but to integrate them into a more whole, more authentic self. It's about accepting that the ship, while beautiful, has been built upon a flawed foundation, and that is the only way to build a true foundation. We have to accept the cracks before we can repair them. It's not about dismantling the better version, it's about expanding it. To acknowledge the truth, the dark and uncomfortable parts of ourselves, and allowing those parts to be seen. Without self-acceptance, the shadow remains, festering and eroding the foundation of the self, no matter how perfectly we polish the deck. The next step isn't about self-awareness, it's about a far more radical act, self-forgiveness. Self-forgiveness, it sounds so simple, doesn't it? Like some fluffy self-help mantra you can chant before bed, but it's not. It's a brutal, gut-wrenching confrontation with the very parts of yourself you've spent a lifetime trying to bury. It's facing the monster in the mirror, the one you've meticulously avoided for years, and realizing it isn't a monster at all. It's just you. Think of the shadow self as that forgotten, neglected corner of your attic. Filled with dusty boxes, cobweb-laden furniture, and long-forgotten keepsakes. You might catch a glimpse of it now and then, a flicker of memory, a fleeting emotion, but you quickly shut the door, determined not to see what's inside. Why? Because that's where the painful parts reside. The wounds, the regrets, the failures, the evidence of your own imperfection. And in confronting these forgotten artifacts, you confront the young boy who was bullied in the streets of Chicago, the teenager who felt lost and alone in a big empty house, the young man who experienced repeated failures in his career. Jung understood this. He understood that the shadow isn't something to be conquered, it's something to be integrated. It's not about erasing the darkness, it's about bringing it into the light, about allowing it to inform and enrich the whole of your being. It's about accepting the parts of yourself that you've judged, rejected, and hidden away. Take Arthur, for example, a 68-year-old retired architect from Seattle. He spent decades crafting a flawless public persona, the successful professional, the devoted husband, the pillar of the community. But underneath, a deep-seated insecurity festered, a fear of failure stemming from a harsh childhood. He'd poured his energy into self-improvement, meditating, joining social groups, even volunteering, yet this nagging sense of emptiness persisted. He felt like a fraud. His self-awareness shone brilliantly on the surface, but underneath it was a shield. He couldn't forgive himself for his past failures, his self-doubt, for the things he never accomplished. The shadow of the boy who once felt inadequate held him captive. Only when he began to confront those painful memories, to acknowledge the hurt boy within, did he begin to find a measure of peace. Not by erasing the past, but by embracing it, by integrating those painful emotions into the whole tapestry of his self. That's when Arthur started to truly live, to breathe. The self-acceptance wasn't about a lack of faults, it was about embracing their existence and finding compassion for his younger self. The journey isn't about becoming a flawless individual. It's about becoming whole. And wholeness means accepting both the light and the darkness, the brilliant success and the devastating failure, the moments of joy and the moments of profound grief. It's about seeing the full picture, not just the carefully curated highlight reel. It's about recognizing that the ship's not rotting from the inside, it's simply aged. It's seen storms, it's weathered years of sun and rain, and it's still sailing. The next step is the hardest and the most liberating. So this is it, the end of the map, or maybe just the beginning. Because for years, I chased self-awareness like a phantom, thinking it held the key to some mythical fulfillment. And maybe it did, but only as a doorway. A doorway to something far more brutal, far more necessary than just understanding yourself, accepting yourself, not the polished, perfected version you've meticulously crafted, but the whole messy, flawed reality. And honestly, I didn't want to see it either. It's not about fixing the cracks in your foundation. It's about recognizing that the foundation itself is strong enough, even with all those scars. You're not broken, you're simply aged, seasoned. You've weathered storms, tasted loss, felt the sting of rejection, and you're still here, still standing, still breathing. That 70-year-old man I met in Sedona, the one who'd spent decades wrestling with his own demons, he didn't find peace by erasing his past. He found it by integrating it, by accepting the weight of his experiences, the shadows that clung to him like a second skin. He didn't fix the ship, he learned to sail it, cracks and all. This isn't about ignoring the hurt, the shame, the moments where you felt utterly alone. It's about seeing them as necessary, as part of the voyage. They're the barnacles, the weathered wood, the scars that tell a story, and a story worthy of being told. Without those scars, it would just be a blank canvas. Empty, meaningless. You see, the self-help industry sold you a lie. That self-awareness is the ultimate goal. It's not. It's a stepping stone. The real work begins when you dare to look into the abyss, not to conquer it, but to embrace it. To understand that the darkness isn't something to be overcome, it's something to be understood. A part of you, a deeply integral part. There are two paths ahead. One leads to continued self-deception, a comfortable existence built on carefully constructed illusions, a gilded cage. The other leads to a confrontation with your deepest fears, a reckoning with the pain you've carried for so long. It's the path of vulnerability, of true connection, of accepting the parts of yourself that you once sought to erase, the path of self-forgiveness. It's terrifying. I know, I've been there. But the terror, it's temporary. The liberation, that's forever. You're not broken, you were never taught the truth. Now you know, now choose. The pain, it isn't your enemy. It's the fuel that powered this journey. It's the fire that forged you. Embrace it.